Welcome to Thoughts Roundup. I would like to bring you another Preachers of the Past in Review. Now, Winford Black, that will register with a lot of folks. I suppose there's a lot of folks already passed on that knew him, but there's people that will still say, oh, Winford Black. Let me tell you the story of Winford Black. There was this young boy in St. Louis, downtown St. Louis. He was down there selling papers. He had his arms full of papers. Extra! Extra! Read all about it. Extra! Extra! Read all about it. And Pastor Harry Branding, that was pastor of the great church that still exists in St. Louis, walked up to him and said, "Son, how many papers do you have?" He told him. Seemed like it was close to 100 papers. He said, "I'll buy them all." And he bought them every one, took them in his arms. He said, "Now, son, I want you to come go with me, because God has something a lot better for you to do than sell papers." Now, Winford Black, that was Winford Black. That was the great Winford Black. He became a great preacher. Everyone loved to hear Winford Black preach. He played the saxophone. And some nights when maybe the service hadn't gone as good or the preaching wasn't quite up to where it ought to be, he'd take that saxophone and start playing, and people started coming to the altar. There was something anointed about or in his playing. I love to hear him. I was privileged to preach the last camp for him. Incidentally, he became superintendent of Missouri, and I preached the last camp for him where the camp was on the river. Fact is, just this year, someone sent me a copy of the brochure of that camp meeting. They called it On the River. Anyone in Missouri will know especially what I'm talking about. And we had such a great camp. I understand there's still some of the CDs, or not CDs, but I suppose cassette tapes from that camp meeting. But I'd like to tell you something so interesting. I was preaching for him, and on Monday morning I had to catch a plane. And he knew what time I had to be there. And so I got to looking at my watch, and he wasn't there. He wasn't there to pick me up. There. So I knew how long it would take to get to the airport with all the traffic that St. Louis had. And so I waited and waited, and I finally called him. He said, "Oh, don't worry. It's all right. Don't worry, it's all right." I said, "Well, Brother Black, it's such and such a time. Don't worry, Brother Marler. It's okay." And after a while, that big limousine-looking car drove up. I jumped in, and that was during the days of the CB craze. And he pulled out, spun rubber out, reached and got that microphone, and he said, "This is the old preacher coming. This is the old preacher. Break 19, break 19. This is the old preacher coming. We got to get to the airport such and such time." And microphones begin to click. "Y'all get out of the way. Make way for the preacher. The preacher's coming. Preacher's coming." He set that thing just a little bit less than 100 miles an hour on the freeway. And no one stopped him. No one. I was never so glad to get to the airport in my life, but I was never so shocked that I actually made it. Everybody knew out there on Channel 9, I believe it was, that who the old preacher was, and they made way for him. Well, the week that he passed away, he was supposed to preach for us at More Life Tabernacle in Flint, Michigan. And whenever I think about extra, read all about it, the half has never yet been told. He was such a organizer. He was such a evangelist and such a church builder. He was just motivated to keep things going and moving. Welcome to Winford Black in Review. God bless you.